Whole grain confusion. Before I make a case for the truly impressive health-promoting abilities of whole grains, I'd like to clear up some confusion that may have unfortunately encouraged you to avoid whole grain foods in the past and or conversely might be encouraging you to buy the wrong whole grain foods, which are of little nutritional value. Few issues in the diet nutrition wars are more confusing than carbohydrates. Low-carb diets have increased the confusion. They've drawn attention to carbohydrates, but unfortunately have oversimplified the issue of protein versus carbs. Many people have come to believe that carbs equal weight gain and are bad. Foods are now being labeled with banners that claim no carb or carb free. Consumers trying to lose weight are being told that eating carbs will destroy any hope of weight loss. What's been lost in this battle, at least for many consumers, is the fact that, like fats and proteins, not all carbs are created equal. Carbohydrates are found in a vast array of foods, from table sugar to vegetables, beans, and whole grains. A teaspoon of sugar is a carb, so is a slice of whole grain bread. You can guess which is better for you, but you may not know precisely why. Now, for all these people out there saying, to stay away from whole grains, stay away from carbs, carbs make you fat. Well, listen to this. Whole grains lower your risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, diverticulosis, hypertension, certain cancers, and osteoporosis. Despite what you may hear, they do not make you fat unless you eat way too much of them, which is hard to do, obviously because of the fiber. The reason carbs have the reputation for promoting weight gain is that the vast majority of those eaten by Americans are refined carbs like cookies, donuts, breads, and cakes that are loaded with sugar and fat, and often trans fats as well. Yes, they are carbohydrates, but they are a world away from the complex carbohydrates that are whole grains. Many people don't realize what a difference there is between whole and refined grains. While whole grains are actually health-promoting, refined grains such as pasta, white flour, white bread, and white rice have been associated with a variety of negative health effects, such as an increased risk of colorectal, pancreatic, and stomach cancers. If you stick with real whole grains, I promise you'll get full before you get fat. How much brown rice can you eat? You'll also increase your health span and maybe even your lifespan. White flour was not available until 1880. In 1943, some of the nutrients that had been stripped out in processing were added back, including some of the B vitamins and iron to white flour. In 1998, folic acid was put back in. The lost vitamin E in various forms in the phytonutrients were never returned and, given the complexity of these nutrients, probably could not effectively be added back. Get everything that's missing from refined grains. Eat whole grains. Some of you may avoid all grain products because you've been led to believe that such foods are carbs and promote weight gain. I hope by the end of this chapter you'll become whole grain enthusiasts. Other people believe they're eating healthy whole grain foods because food labels have convinced them they're buying wisely. But consider this, only 5% of the grain foods in the American diet are whole grains. What are 95% of those refined grains going into? In some cases, products that would have you believe they're healthy and nutritious are not at all. Words like honey wheat, multigrain, hearty wheat, Nutri-Grain, in fact, do not indicate anything about the healthfulness of the product. Foods that use such words on the labels might be nutritious, but these terms guarantee nothing. Food producers are beginning to catch on. Scan the bread shelf at your supermarket. You'll probably see a number of new breads that have health claims. They contain high levels of fiber that you use to find, perhaps added soy flour, and they're made of whole grains. Choosing one of those healthy breads is a simple way to boost your whole grain intake and improve your overall health profile. So what is a whole grain? A whole grain, whether it's oats, barley, wheat, bulgur, or a host of others, contains every part of the grain. The three parts include the bran, which is a health-promoting, fiber-rich outer layer that contains B vitamins, minerals, protein, and other phytochemicals. the endosperm, which is the middle layer that contains carbohydrates, proteins, and a small amount of B vitamins, and the germ, the nutrient-packed inner layer that contains B vitamins, vitamin E, and other phytochemicals. It is the synergy of these three components that makes whole grains life-sustaining. The refined carbs described earlier have been stripped of their health-promoting parts. When grains are refined to make white flour or white rice, for example, the bran and the germ and all their powerful nutrients, antioxidants, and phytonutrients are stripped away, leaving a starchy substance that is to whole grain what soda pop is to 100% fruit juice. They can make it into bread, but they can't make it healthy. And that's really important for you guys to understand, because like a lot of the people in the paleo diet or that have taken Weston A. Price stance have totally, misrepresented grains. And they don't tell you the whole truth about grains, and they would have you to believe that if you were to stay away from all these whole grains, that you'd be healthier. But in fact, I don't believe that's the case, because whole grains are actually very health promoting. Many studies suggest this. If you go to PubMed, you can read various studies showing many of the health benefits of whole grains. And the other thing is that whole grains contain a lot of great nutrients, like they're high in fiber, which is good for bowel regularity. Most Americans and people in the world are constipated. And that's because they're consuming a high animal-based diet, and they're eating a very low fiber diet that's low in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and beans. Whole grains are also low in calories. They're high in protein. They're high in magnesium, potassium, zinc, copper, manganese, selenium, and thiamine. And all of these nutrients are really lacking in people's diets. And it's a wonder why, because a lot of us aren't eating whole grains anymore. We're consuming all these refined grains, and that's has sugar, it has all these bad fats, all these things that actually increase your weight. So when these people are doing the studies, the studies are flawed, put it that way, because they're looking at studies of people eating refined grains, or if they are eating whole grains, they're also consuming all these bad fats and added sugar. So the data is really not accurate, just like it's not accurate with when they do studies on meat and animal products. Typically they'll use the worst meats and the worst animal products. They won't use grass-fed, they won't use free-range eggs, they won't use raw milk and things like that. Well, the same is true when it goes for whole grains. So what I want to get across in this video is really don't have this fear of whole grains. Don't have this fear of carbs. Like, seriously, I consume whole grains, oatmeal, whole grain bread, stuff like that, and fruit, vegetables, beans, and yet I'm very, very, very thin, slim. See, I'm thinner than probably 98% of everybody where I live. I'm really thin. And if these carbs were making me fat, of course I would be huge and obese, but that's simply not the case. And the other thing that I want to mention is that whole grains do not cause acne. Okay? Dairy products, an excessive amount of meat, especially meat from factory farms that's grain-fed, causes too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3, which causes inflammation. Hormones, a lot of hormones are in meat, even natural meat. So that can create a hormonal imbalance, which can create acne and other skin problems. And also, animal products are low in fiber. So you really want to have your diet centered around fruits, veggies, beans, whole grains, nuts, seeds, predominantly plant-based, with small amounts of clean, wild animal food, because those foods do have nutrients that are important for healthy bones, teeth, and a nervous system. So really, guys, don't be afraid of whole grains. And stay away from these people saying, to stay away from them, because they're not giving you accurate and truthful information. They're just trying to promote, whatever particular diet they're doing, or to promote, consuming more animal products, or this or that. It's not really about the health of you guys and giving you truthful and accurate information. It's more about bolstering their own idea of diet so that they feel better about themselves and what they're eating.